Hi, folks, and welcome to Inside the Leader's Mind, where what's in the way becomes the way. I am your host, David Suson. I am so happy to have you with me and listening today. I so appreciate you. And if you've joined us in the past, I so appreciate you being a continuing listener or viewer. Excited for my guest today. My guest is Aras Sheikhi. He's the CEO of Janus Innovation Hub. It's an ecosystem builder. He's a Man, I totally messed it up already. I'm going to start all over. Here, hang on. God, I usually don't start over. I'm going to stop. Hey, folks, and welcome to Inside the Leader's Mind, where what's in the way becomes the way. I'm your host, David Suson, and I'm so excited to have you join me today. And thank you for being a listener. And if you've listened in the past, for listening again, I appreciate it. I want to welcome my guest today. This is Aras Sheikhi. He's the CEO of Janus Innovation Hub and an ecosystem builder focused on turning early stage ideas into market ready startups. His work sits at the intersection of tech, business, and community, supporting immigrant founders, building university partnerships, and launching programs that connect startups with the right mentors, investors, and partners. He's especially passionate about building systems where great ideas don't just stay ideas, they actually move. Welcome to Inside the Leader's Mind.
Thank you, David. Thanks for having me, and really appreciate it for this opportunity to spread the word about Janus and what we're doing here in SoCal.
Well, we love that. We love that. Now, for someone who's never met you, they don't know anything about you. You grew up in Iran. How do you explain the journey from growing up in Iran to building Janus Innovation Hub in San Diego?
Yeah, that's a long story, lots of ups and downs, but a long story short, I born and raised in Iran. I was a faculty member in Sharif University of Technology, and I had two research lab in Sharif University of Technology. Then I decided to make a bridge between research and what industry needs. So there are 3 spin-offs out of my research labs, and we did several projects, and I learned lots of things during those days to how we can resolve the problems, how we can resolve the issues of industry. They really, at that time, we learned that they really need interpreter. Industry needs are clear for themselves, but what that was not clear for universities and for research centers. What we did during that time is how we can interpret and how we can sync these two different language together. So we invent a new language that makes sense for both parties. That was the main things that I did during my faculty when I was a faculty member in Iran. Then in 2017, we decided to move out from Iran. I used to live in Dubai for almost 1.5 years. My team and I immigrated to Dubai and we raised fund there. We learned a lot of things in Dubai. That was the first anchor for us out of Iran to learn plenty of new things about the international market, how we can negotiate with international people, how we can raise fund out of our safe zones, and how we can export our services, how we can export our products out of the safety net that we have. In 2019, we raised another fund in Australia. So I had to move there for almost 4 years. Used to live in Australia, in Sydney. We worked on early wildfire detection system. That was a totally different world. The down under, the new country, new culture, new people. They drive in the left side. Everything got changed totally. And you had to learn. You had to fail too fast to learn too fast. After almost 3.5 years, our company got acquired by the giant big tech company in Australia. That was a big moment for us because we learned how to sell not only sell our products, but also sell our company. So that's the great milestone for all of us. In 2022, I got my green card and I moved to the United States. back and forth. And in 2023, permanently moved to the US and start Janus Innovation Hub. First, before launching Janus Innovation Hub, I was an entrepreneur lead at University of California, San Diego, and I learned lots of new things there. I talked with a lot of mentors here in San Diego, and after almost 6 to 8 months, I finally decided to launch my idea here, not only as a part of a system that I usually get into it, I learned how to develop a system. So we developed Janus Innovation Hub for first generation immigrants, first generation immigrants, someone like me, myself, my co-founders, my team members. We're all first generation immigrants. We are tough skinned people. We know how to build something from scratch. We know how to deal with hesitations. We know how to deal with gray areas. And this is the very positive point for someone who wants to be entrepreneurs. So we see this talent, we see this positive points in almost all immigrants founders. So this is not something to do favor for them. This is an opportunity for us as ecosystem builders to invest on right people, to invest in right people with right criteria. So we stay focused on first generation immigrants and try to share our failures with us and a few success stories that we have, and help them share our new playbook that we have with them, and give them new landscape to pitch their ideas, to build their startup, and to skyrocket in the land of opportunity.
Oh my gosh. All right. So I got a few things I want to unpack in there. I want to go back. How much time were you in university? Because that's where you started, right?
Yeah. I was a
What?
faculty member. Yeah, for 4
Right.
years.
Okay. So maybe I missed it in what you were saying, but when did you realize academia was not your element? That was not for you? And I know I asked you this in the prep call because oftentimes people that are in academia, they stay in it. And I always wonder what drives someone to go, hey, this is not for me.
Yeah, that's a good question. I thought the academia was my element, and I was at my element during the first 2 years of my academy research and what we did at university. But after year 2 or 3, after being 2 years in university, I found that, hey, there are plenty of research and there are plenty of publications. How can I use them? How can I apply them into the industry? I had a good background in industry as well, and I saw two different silos, totally two different silos, and how we can. I see myself not as a industrial leader or as a researchers or as faculty members. I can position myself as a bridge. I found that bridge as the best element for myself to interpret both parties, to interpret the language of both parties. That was in total different frequencies. What I did was finding the right frequency and right language for both parties to connect those silos together. And that was the missing part between two different islands.
Was that as you look back, hindsight's 2020. As you look back even earlier in your life, were there certain skill sets that you kind of naturally had that you were able to plug in to see yourself as that bridge, or did you discover this along the way?
Yeah, that's a very good question again. I see this ability, the capacity in myself to see the ability and talent in other people and try to inside out, try to expose it and try to show it to the other people. People sometimes have their own ability, their own talent, but they're not aware of that. They're not, for example, there are plenty of research professors, research faculties in universities that they did a great job. They did lots of research, deep research, but they don't know how to present it to people. They don't know how they can deploy it into the real market. They don't know how they can generate money out of it. What I did during the very early days in university is seeing this opportunity in not only the people in my research lab, but also in the other research lab. I made a group of consortium of faculty members to present their ideas through the pipeline that we developed for the right industry, for example, for power plants. hey, we have this science, we have this knowledge to increase, for example, the efficiency of turbines for your system. We have this ability, we have this study and research to make the most power out of this wind turbine, out of the solar panels. And this is the things that I see in myself as one of the main power that I have to show this ability of the others to the right people into the market.
So it's a perfect fit for what you're doing now, right? To be able to say, here's what they have, and here's how we can present that. I love that. And I want to bounce off something else you said earlier. We were talking about immigrant founders. And I know you said to me this, and you said a little bit differently just now, but you talked about immigrant founders needing a different playbook and
Yes.
that their journey is different. And so there's a couple of questions all mixed in, but they're all related. Then a couple minutes ago, you were saying that immigrant, especially first generation immigrant founders, are really, paraphrasing, well positioned, good positioned at being entrepreneurs or something to that effect. So, help me understand why they need a different playbook, what makes their journey different, and why they're maybe, I don't want to say better at this, but maybe thoughts?
Yeah, I got your point. Different playbook because they have different concerns. When we are talking about playbook, we are talking about the concerns and about the method of approach to different resources. In the US, there are huge resources for entrepreneurs, but the method of approaching for first generation immigrants totally different. They have lots of concerns. They have a visa issue, they have a family issue here, they have status. The living status of them is something totally horrible sometimes. Right now, for example, today that we are talking together, Persian communities, Persian students here in the US faced with the visa issues, pause. They called it pause. And this is unlimited pause in their converting the visa from student visa to green card or whatever visa they can work here in the US. For example, when you connect someone as a mentor to those people, as a local mentor to those people who did not experience the same things, so how they can mentor those students, how they can talk with them on the same frequency. They talk about the West, but they're thinking about the East. The point is that when I connect someone as a mentor, mentor matchmaking is a very, very important part of Janus playbook. When we have a Persian founder in one of our startups, we try to find the Persian mentor, Persian successful entrepreneurs, connect that person to them. Because otherwise, if I connect someone from China, for example, to someone from Persian community, they cannot talk very well to each other. Yes, they can talk technically about the technical challenges, technical issues, but mentorship is not just about technical things. This is about understanding and listening to someone's concerns very well and try to pave the way for them with right advice. You know what I mean? This is a know-how of Janus. If I have Persian, if I have Nigerian entrepreneurs, I try to find Nigerian and Afro-American people and connect successful Afro-American entrepreneurs with those people to listen them carefully, to know their concerns very well, and then try to advise them based on the real world, real things. Otherwise, that's just a conversation, and we are not looking for conversation at all. We are looking for, yeah.
And if I'm hearing this right and trying to understand it, because as an immigrant, you have other issues. You have visa issues, you have
Totally.
life issues, you have living issues, and it's kind of hard to run a business or do a business when you have these. And as an entrepreneur, and I know that because I've had my own business for years, it just blends together. It's not like early days of when I worked at IBM, you have your life and you have the office. When you're an entrepreneur, is that really what you're
Totally.
saying is,
Yeah,
yeah, it's someone who can actually understand the bigger picture.
totally. Totally correct. And it's totally true. It's the life and the business are completely interlaced,
Yeah.
interwoven together, and you cannot separate them and think about them separately. When you are immigrants, you need someone to not only support you in a technical basis, but also help you in the life concerns as well. That's
Yes.
just things that make you resilient. We try to rebuild. We are not, David, we are not build a startup. We are trying to rebuild the character of first generation immigrants to strengthen and reinforce the character of first generation immigrants in the US. The one who want to be a big entrepreneurs need special care, need special supports. They need someone who can listen to them and understand them very well.
And the other part of the question is, do you think, the way you said it, that sometimes immigrants are really well suited to do entrepreneurial? What did I understand that part right?
Yes, yes,
What
because
help fill that in?
yeah, yeah, they learned to rebuild something based on the journey they had. When you immigrate from your safe zone, from your country, to the new country, to the US, for example, you lost all of your connections in your main country, and you have to rebuild everything here in the United States. You have to rebuild your connection, rebuild your friends, rebuild your everything that you have, and everything that you had in your main country. So this kind of people are are very familiar with risk. Like, this kind of people, they know how to negotiate with risk. They know how to build their wing on a way down of the when they learn when you don't have a safe net, you learn how to build up your wing on a way down. So this kind of people, I believe that immigration is like building your wings on a way down when you don't have safe nets. So you practice it before and you pass that and you learn how to rebuild something out of your safe zone. You learn how to connect with new people. You learn how to expose yourself in the new country. So you have the first criteria, which is resiliency and flexibility to be entrepreneurs. And this is a great checkbox for us to be checked when we interviewed with someone first generation or native here, because resiliency and flexibility are the main things that we are after in the DNA of people. If people are resilient and flexible, then they finally find their pathway. And the idea is not important at all. The idea of the business is something that you can make several pivots and make your product and make your business. The things that you need to have is resiliency and flexibility. If you have this two, and if you know how to negotiate with your fear, how to deal with your fear, then congratulations and welcome to the club. You are entrepreneur.
I love that. I love that. Do you also think that, so this is a belief I have, and I just want to bounce it off you. It's kind of what you're saying, that immigrants, and I'm generalizing, they don't have anything to lose because they've walked away from everything. So when they come here, it's like they can take risk. Whereas I'll give you an example myself. I started my first career at IBM, and one of my buddies that lived right in the apartment complex with me, he started his career in selling insurance. And I know it's not but here's the analogy. He was 100% commission. I was getting this nice salary, and I'm thinking I could not quit my job and start from scratch because of the amount of I'm already comfortable. I've already got the nice car. I've got the place to live. And I cannot even imagine walking away from the comfort. Well, he's got nothing. So he's going from nothing. He can take a risk. And I feel sometimes immigrants, people go, they're an immigrant. Right. The beauty of an immigrant is they don't have that safety net. So they have nothing to lose and everything to gain. And it seems like if they're a little more willing to take risk, they will. Is that fair call, a fair assessment?
Yeah, 100%. It's totally aligned with what we are thinking about the first generation immigrants, and they don't have anything to lose here in the new country. They're reborn here again if they have a good support and if they have a good mentor, which is very important for their journey, for their pathway, and if they have someone to motivate them. Hey, you don't need to be in your safe side if you're an employee. If you want to be a entrepreneur, you have to think about the getting riskier pathway. And being employee and keep your safe zone, for example, it's not the things that you can follow in the land of opportunity. If you come to the US, you have plenty of scenarios. And just being the employee in a conglomerate, in a big company here in the US, if it's not satisfied you, so you want to be an entrepreneur. So you have to take that risk. You have to take more risk. And we are next to you to support you to be that entrepreneur. And we have a lot to share with you. We can connect you to the mentors. We can share our resource with you, and we can help you in this pathway to be a rocket star here in the US.
Love that. Love that. Where do most early stage ideas or entrepreneurs get stuck, would you say? What's been your experience as let's say they move in this path, they've got the mentorship, early stage, they get stuck?
Yeah. Sometimes based on our experience, face to their failure is something that they cannot tolerate most of the time. And if we can destigmatize the failure for them, that's a huge debottlenecking process for them. Because of the reason that they come from, they think that they don't have enough opportunity for failing. So sometimes they avoid from the failure, and they're not trying different approaches to learn new things. But if we can destigmatize the failure for them very well, and if we can tell them, hey, failure is not an end of the road. Failure is just a fast learn and compress learn. And this is your plan to fail. Don't worry about it. Let's own your fails and let's fail to learn. Fast fail, fast forward, really into this expression. And so, yeah, that's the most of the part. I saw lots of startups stuck in this stage. And after 1-2 failure, they decided to go back to that safe zone they have and be an employee in the big company.
So even after you explain this, right, failing faster and you learn, right, every time you fail, you're really learning. That's what failure is, right? It's even though you say it logically, someone can hear it, but psychologically, emotionally, ego gets in the way. How do you or can you break through that so that someone gets that shift and they go, okay, it's not just logic. I get it. I got to let the ego go, because typically that's what I find holds people back is ego, a failure, right? It's the internal dialogue. How do you, any thoughts, any ideas?
Yeah, you're totally right. Sometimes this is because of their ego and they cannot tolerate the failure several times. And if they cannot tolerate the failure one after another, so they're not a good fit for entrepreneurial journey. They're not a good fit for this realm. And they need to think about it. They need to rebuild their character. As I mentioned in the earlier of this talk, they need to rebuild their character. I know that all of the people in, for example, UCSD, Stanford University, Berkeley, MIT, this kind of university, they have a big ego. And if they learn how they can deal with their big ego and learn, hey, this is the process of learning. This is not the failure is not an end of the world. I failed because I want to learn. Otherwise, I don't learn enough things. If they cannot deal with this issue, so they're not a good candidate for being entrepreneurs. I mentioned this quote several times, name it and tame it. When you name something with the right approach, you can tame that concept for yourself. If you call something as a failure, maybe you're not willing to own that failure. But if you call this as a compressed learning, we call each failure as a compressed learning. Every time that I have a mentorship session with my mentees, we are talking about their failures as a compressed lessons. What was your compressed lessons? What was your last compressed lessons? And if someone in the interview of onboarding people and cherry picking the startup for each our cohort that we have, one of the main questions that I ask from interviews is that how many times did you pivot during your development? How many times did you change your path? And if they mention something, hey, no, we have a North Star and we are just we didn't fade at all. So they didn't do something meaningful. If they didn't fail, they didn't build something impactful. They didn't build something big. And yeah, that's a very important criteria for people and the startups they're working on.
So do you look for someone who has pivoted more because it's telling you that they're trying and they're is that what that or that they don't have good direction? I mean, I wouldn't sure I wouldn't not sure what the right answer would be.
Yeah, the pace is very important. You have to keep your speed. You have to keep your pace, and at the same time, you have to find your direction correctly. What's your direction? How can you find your direction correctly? By doing a lot of pivots. When you do a pivots, you iterate to the right direction. So you have to keep your speed, and at the same time, you have to pivot as much as you can to find your right direction.
It's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Speaking of pivot, I want to pivot a little bit if we may. Talk about neurodivergent. Can we do that?
Yeah, absolutely.
All
That's
right. So first of all, let's define neurodivergent for our listeners, and then tell me about, if it's okay, I want you to tell me about your co-founder, and then we'll talk about neurodivergent and what you do with that. So go ahead and give your definition first. I want to hear how you define neurodivergent.
Yeah, I call neurodivergent in a poetic approach. Neurodivergent people can see things from different vantage. They see over the fences. When we see the fences, they see over the fences. The people in the spectrum sees things with different colors, with different vibes, and with they're very sensitive about the signals around, and that they see more. They see the dynamics of the things based on my experience. Let me share something with you. Why we decided to go through to this way and build up this ecosystem here in national-wide ecosystem from San Diego to Nashville is that one of my co-founders, he's graduated from Stanford University, is neurodivergent. And I saw a lot of potential and a lot of capacity in this kind of people. He's very potent. He's very potent. He's a mastermind of almost all of our business that we have. He works 14 hours per day, but in a different situation. I mean, he cannot sell anything. For example, he's not an art. He doesn't have this kind of art to sell anything, but he can plan for next 10 years with 100 scenarios, and this is something exceptional. And I saw a lot of neurodivergent people because of my co-founder Mustafa. I saw a lot of neurodivergent people. I talk with them, and I learned a lot from those kind of people, how they can see the universe, how they can see the interaction between people, and how they can see the businesses, the trends, everything. So I believe in their capacity. I believe in their vigorousness, and we decided to establish something with Vanderbilt University first and Free Center. Free Center is owned by Freest family in Tennessee, Nashville. And we developed this ecosystem dedicated to neurodivergent people, their startups, and startups who serves neurodivergent people for thriving them and for supporting those kind of people. Unfortunately, we lots of turnouts we have. We have plenty of applications from neurodivergent people who making products for their own use or for their neurodivergent community, autism community, take givers and caregivers. That's a huge opportunity, and we need to stay focused on that. And we need to represent this kind of people much better for serving our nation, for serving United States nations. I learned something very interesting. I learned that in some national security sessions, the think tank decided to invite neurodivergent people on this strategy session. And they learned a lot from those kind of people because they see all the things from different vantage, from different perspective. This is the trend that they include some neurodivergent people for their very valuable insights to their decision national security level.
They see the world differently. That's typically, I guess, on the spectrum, you'd think autism might be, that's considered neurodivergent, right?
Yeah, they
But
consider
then
as
there's other people that are on the spectrum that may have certain abilities. I don't want to name names, but there's famous people, very wealthy people that we all know. But there's people that, you look at that they're just a little different from everyone else. And I think some people judge them, but those are really strengths. What you're talking about is their ability to think different and they process differently. I think, it's amazing. I was thinking about this. What would change if investors, because that's kind of in the world you're in, what would change if investors saw neurodivergent thinking as an asset instead of a challenge? Because I think that's what most people do. They go, what are you missing and what's wrong? As opposed to, oh my gosh, look at what they can do. Because so tell me about your thoughts on investors if
Yeah,
they saw it
it's
differently.
that's exactly the way we are taking these days to expose this capacity, to expose this power to the people. Neurotech Frontier, this is the pipeline we are building with Nashville with Vanderbilt University. Recently, we added Stanford University, we added UCSD, we added San Diego State University to this pipeline as our partners to make it more vigorous and make it more powerful. And when people can see their power, and we help this awareness process to expose their power to the people, not only investors, but also for example, employers. When employers see that, hey, neurodivergent people can add new vantage, can add new perspective to our systems. So they open a new position for neurodivergent people. Why not? The point is that sometimes we need more attention, sometimes to this kind of people. Sometimes we need to, that's exactly the things that we were talking about my personal power on seeing talent in people and try to amplify it for the others as an interpreter. This is in line with that, uh, I can claim that I have it to amplify it for the people outside the circle. Hey, see this power. This is what you are looking for. See this assets, that this is exactly what you're looking for. And you can onboard them into your system and make money from their talent, from their new opinion that they have.
Do you
That's
sometimes
exactly the same things.
do you sometimes when you're working with these entrepreneurs and individuals, do you just the way your mind is, do you oftentimes see things in them that they don't see in them? Do you see the strength? Do you see opportunity? And they're like, really? I don't even notice it.
Yes, I see several times it happens. For example, for neurodivergent people that you mentioned, I never see the similar things in the other people, that I can see that this strong and this power into the neurodivergent people. This is unique. This is really unique. And the best things that I can make an example for it, when we see the fence, we see the fence, but neurodivergent people can easily, really easily, literally easily see over the fences, and they can analyze all the things over the fences, the things that our mind, the neuronormal people, can even think about that part, because our vision range is just cannot overcome the fences, but they easily overcome that and see over the fences. This is great.
And I think drawing that out of people, that's an art too, right? Being able to see what they don't see, to realize how that's a strength. All right, a couple more questions as we move toward the end here. My podcast, the tagline is what's in the way becomes the way. So the whole
Mm-hmm.
idea behind that is if you think about like my life, you think about a lot of the CEOs I've interviewed, sometimes there's an obstacle that gets in our way and we become who we are because we went around it a different direction or we decided to go through it. So for you, what is something that's been in the way that actually became part of your path?
Can you clarify it a little bit more for me?
So think of an obstacle, something in your life that was an obstacle. And because of that obstacle, you are where you are today because you either took a different path or you said, hey, I'm going to plow through that obstacle. I'm going to work through it. I'm going to force it.
Okay. Yeah. And you need an example of my journey about this approach. Yeah.
Well, okay, kind of in a abbreviated, just kind of abbreviated version. What's something that was an obstacle that kind of put you on the path where you're at today?
The obstacle that several obstacles, and most of the time, those obstacles that I faced during my journey led me to sometimes I personally avoid them. I don't know what did happen if I go through to that obstacles and break broke them through. But the last one that I personally tried to broke them through was my decision to when I first time when I came to the US, I came here without the roadmap, really. I came here with mindset, and my mindset was building something impactful here in the US. And faced with several obstacles here in the US. Again, for the fourth time of my immigration, US was my fourth time of my immigration. And again, I lost everything that I had that I built in Australia. I lost everything that I built in Dubai. I lost everything that I built in Iran. And I had to rebuild everything again here, inch by inch here in the US. Several times my friends here in the US told me, "Hey, you're really crazy. Why don't you go to this job in university and take this role in university or take this role in industry and get um, $200,000 yearly? Why didn't you do that? $300,000 yearly. Why didn't you do that?" And that was a real pressure for you. Lots of people just poke you every time. "Hey, come on, that's enough. You did what you have to do. So just relax and come back to the university. You did a great job in Australia. Come back to the university in the US. You can go to the best university here in the US and be a faculty member. I don't know, be a research, get back to the industry again and live normally like the other people." But I decided to face it. I decided to break through again. I decided to do something impactful and not to detour the path and detour the problem and take the other approach and somehow avoid from the fear, avoid from that obstacle. I try to break through in it. I try to break it all. And yeah, that's the last time
Uh,
I faked with the biggest stone in my journey.
wow, that's amazing. All right, last question, because I know we only have a couple of minutes. We have to wrap up here. Last question, and thank you for sharing all that. That's amazing. What's a question you wish people would ask you, but they don't know to ask you?
What a tricky question. Ask me about the time, about the moments, the aha moments when the definition of failure got changed into my mind.
And do you have a
That's
quick answer?
exactly the time when you have to learn, build up your wings on a way down when you don't have safe nets. And
Build
this,
your
it
wings.
happens to me. Yeah, it happened to me when I was first time I immigrated to Dubai, and I lost everything that I had in Iran, and I need to reestablish everything from scratch, from totally from zero, from the ground level to build it up. And that was a time that I learned to failure. I learned to fail fast and quick. And I consider it as a compressed lessons, not as a failure. Right now, if I didn't fail, I learned that something does not work properly because I'm not a perfect person and the world is full of new opportunities and full of ups and downs and tons of new things getting evolved every day. And if I doesn't fail on a daily routine, something happen, and I'm in my safe sides, and this is not the meaning of development.
That's awesome. That's also an obstacle. What was in the way became the way. So I love that. That answered both those questions too. All right. I know we've got to wrap up here. Thank you, Aras, so much for being with me. If people want to learn more, get in touch, what is the best way for them to do that with you?
My LinkedIn, they can easily Google my name and surname, Aras Sheikhi. They easily can find my Google, send a message to me, and I try to be update on my LinkedIn every day and respond to them back as soon as possible.
And if they want to learn about Janus Innovation?
They also can find Janus Innovation Hub website, janusinnovationhub.com. The website is totally updated. All of our programs, they can easily find a lot of information about this, and they can apply for Janus Innovation Hub. And we are not limited to those programs that you mentioned, David. We have the other programs that startups in early and later stage can collaborate with us and find all of our services and resources we can share with them.
And I'll make sure I put the link to LinkedIn and your website in the show notes. Thank you so much for being with me. You've been a lovely, fabulous guest, so I really appreciate you.
Thank you so much, David. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. And folks, thank you for sticking with us, for listening. We so appreciate you. For Inside the Leader's Mind, I'm David Suson, and we'll see you next time.